The only 16 mixing tips you'll ever need. Tip number 1 is to get it right at the source by making sure you've got the highest quality recordings, samples, or VST instruments you can find. Tip number 2 is to get the volume balance right first. Tip number 3, time is of the essence. Tip number 4 is to focus on the key element. Tip 5 is to loop the loudest section of the song, get that sounding great first. Tip 6 is to lead with problem solving. Tip number 7 is to avoid the solo button. It's okay to use it every now and then, but try not to use it too much. Tip number 8 is to have an intention behind every single move. Tip number 9 is to check your moves. Always bypass and do an A/B comparison. Tip number 10 is to use good reference tracks. Tip number 11 is to mix in mono for the majority of your mix. Tip number 12 is to listen back to your mix on multiple speakers and headphones. Tip number 13 is to mix at a low volume so you don't get ear fatigue. Tip number 14 is to take regular breaks. Tip number 15, assume you're going to need some kind of volume automation in your mix. And 16, you don't need expensive gear or plugins to get great mixes. It's more about your knowledge and your skill.